Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. This is my dad, Ted.
Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky. Recently, I have been all over the place in supporting and mentoring a bunch of great people. I was fortunate to work with police officers, teachers, manufacturers, attorneys, engineers, and administrators, as well as a room full of HR professionals, all in the last couple of weeks. And in each of those rooms, the last few weeks, there has been a common theme when people come and ask me questions. How do I better help others and myself with all of the pressures, emotions, and objectives we're all navigating? This is a common theme for all of us as we look to guide those we support and serve, whether that be students in classrooms, colleagues in offices, or wherever, anywhere you are leading, at work, at play, or even at home. But here's the deal. Supporting others begins with you being very aware of a few things. First, what does my presence do to support this person? Can they be truly authentic and vulnerable with me? Do I have what they need in this moment? Am I in the mind space to provide them support? Am I able to actively listen in this situation? Or am I in a distraction fog? Too many other things on my mind. Being present for others is not always easy. And too often, we're in a weird state of mind where we are ranking our problems or the problems of others against that of the person who's standing right in front of us. In other words, we think to ourselves, this is a 2 on a scale of 10, and I don't really need to deal with this right now. But we need to recognize this in ourselves and reframe and refocus for them. Remember this, the single most important person in the world is who is ever standing in front of you. Again, the most important person is who's ever standing right in front of you right now. No problem is greater or lighter. It is an opportunity and a problem for the one facing it, not you. So, what do we do with all of this? This week, we're going to do some smart thinking around how we help others and ourselves through processes and a few reminders of how to get where we need to go for ourselves and others by being what they need and using tools and processes to get them there, well, as well as ourselves. You might have a little independent research that you might have to do afterwards because I'm going to throw a lot of different references at you. So, have a pen and paper handy and be ready to do some homework. Okay, now, before we do any of this, we need a few reminders. Number one, that we are all leaders, because a leader is anyone who has influence over another person. That means that every moment of every day, everything that we are doing is being watched, monitored, and observed through the lens of, would I want to do that? Should I do that? Or would I never do that? That's what we are. We're leaders. No matter where we are, what we're doing, we are constantly serving as a reminder to others that we can be the difference in every environment in which we are. The second one is followership. Just a reminder, each of us is responsible for leading and following, walking right along with the other people by collaborating, holding ourselves accountable, making sure that we're resilient in our work, and making sure that we choose to be engaged in every situation that we are in. And we do that by focusing on empathy, both for ourselves and others, constantly questioning, what would I need in this situation if I were them, and what do I need in this situation because I am them? And finally, reflection. At the end of each day, asking yourself a very simple question. What did I do well today for others so that I can improve upon it for tomorrow or repeat it again tomorrow? And lastly, you know what this means. We do this by being a buffalo, charging into the storms that we are facing every single day because that's the fastest way through them. The quickest way to starry nights and sunny days is to challenge the storms that are coming our way, optimistically and enthusiastically. Okay, so how do we do all this? A key to successfully supporting others and yourself is working on your own leadership by doing several things. Looking for the opportunities to learn and grow your own skill sets, finding role models to watch and learn from, creating experiences for yourself so that you can feel the impact another person can have on you. In other words, experiencing things before you try to support others to do them, so that in the end, we're all chasing two things, because that is what we are constantly all looking for. As a leader, we're looking to do this for other people, and as a person, we're trying to find it for ourselves. And what are those two things? Affirmation and accountability. Yeah, we want to know, are we doing things well? That we're going to be okay, that we're heading in the right direction, or that we are on the right pathway. This affirmation is a powerful motivator when you're up against doubt. And the second desire is accountability. There is no greater motivator to act than knowing you have someone in your corner rooting for you and that you have to go back to them and explain what you decided to do because you were coached to it, up for it, or through it. Now, before we get into the practices and processes, I, of course, have, a story. When I was a young middle school principal in the early 2000s, I had the opportunity to take on some really big issues, especially because I was new in a very large setting. I felt many times that I was being tested by all different types of people, especially the more veteran members of the staff. I had this great mentor named Al. Actually, I had two Als that were my mentors, but on this occasion, this Al, he had done some things for me that I had never expected. And one day, I had gone over to his building to have lunch with him, and we started out our mentoring meetings the way he always did. He asked me one question. Now, before I get into the question, he asked, I want to tell you a little bit about the self-made legend named Al. He was a common sense guy, a trained kindergarten teacher who became a principal. He had a great sense of humor, led with heart and seriousness, and was weirdly very endearing because of his no-nonsense style. He was a guy who came of age in the 70s and was about 15 years older than me. His staff revered him and was deathly afraid to disappoint him. He was emotional when he cared for you and emotionless when having to bring accountability. He seemed to have little fear and also appeared to never get caught in the loop of self-doubt or wonder. He executed quickly and made adjustments in motion, failing and learning while finding success. I really liked him and could not get enough time around him. I had had good mentors and coaches in my life, and I had also had a few lunkers who would have never been able to be like Al. In short, I wanted to be like Al, but that is not possible without being Al. And one day, he even said to me, "You need to be Ted," because I had just gotten done talking to him about, "Friend, I need to know how to be like you." And he said, "You can't be. You are yourself. You need to steal ideas and practices from others while just focusing on improving. Or else no one will ever know the real you, and you'll be very unpredictable for others." He had a million one-liners. One time, I needed a little coaching on how to address younger staff members that were wearing clothing that was not really appropriate for the classroom or in a professional environment. And after me spending like 20 minutes explaining my situation to him, he simply said, just walk up to them and say, "We don't dress like that here," and then walk away and leave them with the decision. No need to argue with them or over-explain like you just did to me. Explain your expectations and move on without another thought. I remember thinking, that's got to be so easy for him. But that little quip hit me like a brick. It was so simple, and no one had ever made it simple and clear for me. So that afternoon, the opportunity back at my school presented itself, and I used the line. An hour after I had used the line, the person I had used it on came back and said, "Sorry. We thought because you were younger, we could dress like this." And then they stated to me, "Even though you wear a shirt and tie every day, we thought we could wear cooler clothes. We won't anymore." I smiled and called Al and told him that it worked. He said, "Good," and he hung up. It was great coaching. And then a few months later, I learned another great lesson from Al. But before I tell you the lesson, I want to tell you the question. Every time I went in by Al, he would just close the door, sit me down, and say, "What's the most important thing we need to discuss?" And that was it. Not, "How are you doing? And how's your family? And how was the ride over? And how about the weather? And what did you have for lunch?" Nope. "What's the most important thing we should be discussing right now?" And we just got right to it. His coaching was amazing. And the lesson I learned from him was, it was a combination of what we began with, affirmation and accountability. You see, I was facing a really weird situation, and it emerged that, what happened was something that I wish I could share all the details on, but it was a significant violation of policy, likely leading to someone's termination. And it was with a staff member that was known for being volatile and very argumentative. Almost every time the opportunity presented itself for me to talk to this person, I lost sleep over it. I overthought. I couldn't eat my breakfast. I felt weird in my body, and I was always worried. I learned over time that what I was doing was I was renting all my mental real estate to that person, and it worked. It worked. It worked me over, is what it did. It positioned me where every morning that I had to talk to this person, I would skittle Tums hoping my stomach would feel better. Oh, man, your body tells you what is going on before your brain figures it out. Well, anyways, I went to Al and explained what happened, and he said, "I'll be there with you. I'll sit with you and help. because I was sitting there spinning. I was freaking out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was so afraid of what the responses would be. And he just gently said, I'll be there with you. I felt kind of wimpy when he said that, and I was quick to defend myself. I said, I don't need you there, and I can handle this. And he just repeated himself and said, I will be there with you. He told me what he expected me to do and to stop tying myself up in knots and get into the room with this person and then get them out. That night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, thinking to myself, Al was so specific and so clear. I wish I could be like that. But I couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming confrontation that was going to happen. So that morning, I left extra early to get myself ready to go into the office. And I got to the office because the meeting was first thing before the school day started. And as I was prepping, there he was, Al. He showed up early, and he did a few things for me. He sat me down, and we reviewed what needed to happen. He set the accountability. We then reviewed language and expectations. He affirmed for me, and he knew me, and I knew him. We had a common language, shared values, and a genuine desire to be collaboratively successful. I helped him too once in a while, but he was curious and honest with me all the time. And then the moment arrived. This person walked into my office and saw Al and I sitting at the table. They stiffened up a little bit. And with my mentor sitting there, I did the same. I had confidence and felt comfortable. I didn't have a stomach ache or tightness in my chest. I understood what needed to happen, and I had gone over every possible scenario with my mentor, coach, and friend, Al. He told me right before the meeting that he wasn't going to say a word, and he expected me to follow through on my commitments. He had coached me to confidence in myself and the situation. I looked at him and was like, I got this, Al. The person I had to address walked towards the table and sat down. Al looked at me with a you got this, kid kind of affirmation, and then he did something I didn't expect. He gently put his hand on my shoulder, stood up, and walked out. It took me a second to realize what had just happened, and then I turned and had what was, to that point in my life, one of the most difficult conversations I had ever had to have with anybody. And I was all right. I'd been coached, and as a result of that coaching, I had affirmations in my mind that it was going to be all right and I was going to be okay. I was confident in my process and comfortable that I'd be okay when this was all over. But one of the things he said to me right before the staff member entered was, what's the best outcome for this conversation? He shifted my mindset. He knew I needed to shift my mindset because all I was thinking about was what was the worst thing that was going to happen. He knew I needed a couple of options if it got sticky, and he did something at a masterful level. He just listened to me and had me constantly reviewing my own thinking. He taught me so much about being coached that years later, when I was actually formally trained in coaching processes and other people, I was stunned how well he had done for me and others with absolutely no formal training. But that was Al, a man of many surprises and an amazing ability to read the person in front of him and help them get to where they needed to go. So when the meeting ended, and I had done what was needed, weirdly, this historically gruff staff member walked out of the meeting, opened the door, and turned and said to me, while I do not like this at all, I do appreciate how you handled that, and not too many people have been that honest with me in the course of my life or career. And now, at least, I know where I stand. I took a deep breath and started to turn around, and then I noticed Al. He was sitting there with the students. You know, the row of students who are always in the office? Well, he was there hanging out with them and talking to them. And then he saw me. He walked back into my office with a huge grin on his face. And as soon as I closed the door, I turned and was like, "What the hell, Al?" He started laughing and grabbed his belly and slapped his knee, a signature Al move, and asked, "Well, are you okay?" I said, "Yes." One of the things that he had coached me to the day of was that if it was unfair to leave a conversation with another person if they didn't know where they stood. And we had both heard the veterans say, well, at least I know where I stand. So what are the strategies we should employ when we coach others? Well, let me share with you my training before getting into these concepts that I put together and researched for you. I was an IPEC coach. I'm a Clifton Strengths coach, and I have been coached a bunch by many people, formally and informally. I've researched this for years and have come away with a few key learnings that I think you need to reflect upon as we move forward with this type of smart thinking. Now, first, get really good at coaching yourself. Yeah, you. Don't go running around trying to tell other people how to get better. Work on yourself. And here are a few key behaviors. Number 1, listen to yourself. Be in tune with yourself. Know what your body is saying to itself. Call out what you're feeling. Question your own narratives that you've created in your mind. Check your emotions and focus on the energy you're bringing into the room. And finally, assess your mindset. Are you optimistic or pessimistic in this situation? We are all our own greatest work of art. Yeah, that's right. Meaning that only we understand where our imperfections are and where our perfections lie. We know where all the flaws are and we know what we're proud of. Other people may notice them or not, but we always know, so we should always be reflecting. And before we engage others, we must first engage ourselves. 3 things you should consider, and not in any order, for your own personal and professional development. First is read Positive Intelligence. It is a fantastic book. It's an amazing network, and it is just going to help you help yourself to help others. Research and potentially get trained in IPEC, I-P-E-C, and know your strengths through Clifton Strength Finder. Always know your strengths. Now, I'm going to share with you all of my favorite little ideas from each of these different groups and processes from their different coaching frameworks. And the first one that really, really helped me a ton, and I believe will help you, is understanding what IPEC calls core energy coaching. You see, IPEC's foundational philosophy is that energy attracts energy. And coaches use the Energy Leadership Index, or ELI, something you can Google, to help others identify how they show up under stress. Are you anabolic or are you catabolic? Which energy are you bringing? Catabolic energy is draining, stressful, and destructive. There's something there called level 1. Are you victimhood, or level 2, are you in conflict? And anabolic energy is constructive, fueling, and creative. Which one are you? Which mode are you in? Who do you want to be? And then there's something called the Gales framework. Use this for yourself to identify the different internal blocks that stop you from taking action or others. G stands for gremlins. It's the inner critic. I'm not good enough. A stands for assumptions. It happened before, so it will happen again. I is interpretations, an opinion you create about an event, like, the boss didn't look at me, so I'm getting fired. And L, limiting beliefs, generalizations about the world. You can't trust people in HR. I highly recommend this training and understanding of others as you learn and grow. It was so powerful again for me at first, and then as I worked with others and saw all of it come to light, it just changed everything. Here's a great statement that I read when prepping for today. The body often knows the answer before the mind does. Somatic inquiry. Instead of asking, what do you think? Ask, where do you feel that in your body right now? Like, do you actually physically feel it? Do you have a tightened chest? Do your shoulders hurt? Does your back hurt? Do you have arm pain? Do you have a headache? This helps you and them process anxiety physically rather than just ruminating on it. Because one of the things that happens is your body does inform you as to what's going on, and stress does change your physical makeup. So IPEC also has something called the STOP technique. And what it is the S is stop what you are doing. T is take a breath. O is observe your thoughts and feelings. And P, proceed with a conscious choice. Make your own decisions. Now, I'm going to flip to Positive Intelligence, or PQ, and then help you with mental fitness. Now, based upon the work of Shirzad Chamine, this protocol focuses on identifying saboteurs to improve your own mental wellness. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. First thing we do is we identify the judge, the master saboteur that beats up the self, others, or circumstances. What are you thinking about? Where is this coming from? What do you think will happen, won't happen, and why do you think that? And then there's something called Positive Intelligent Reps. Now, this is a technique to help build the mental muscle of focus. All you do is spend 10 seconds focusing intensely on a physical sensation, the weight of your feet on the floor, the sound of a distant fan. And what you do is when you get in that moment, and you coach other people to this, when you start to feel it coming on, the anxiety, the worry, the wonder, well, you shift from what's called the hijacked brain to the sage brain by just stopping, looking off in the distance, staring at a car driving by, looking at a bird in the sky, whatever it is. Just shift it so that you purposely move yourself mentally into a different space to provide yourself that breath. Positive intelligence is so powerful. It's something that I absolutely love, 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 and must be used by all of us. Okay. One more thing I want to bring it back to in the IPEC training is what's called the GROW model. So when we are working with other people and we're trying to help them, IPEC really, I believe, has the gold standard for structuring coaching sessions for effort and results. And the first thing we do is we work with other people and or ourselves to grow. Grow is G, goal. Make sure we define the outcome, and then what does success look like by the end of what we are doing, especially if we're coaching other people. So like Al would just say, what's the most important thing we need to be talking about today? We would talk about it, but then in the beginning, if Al had been a master level coach, he would have said, what does it look like when we're done? And then R is reality. Assess the current situation. What are we really talking about here? And then options, looking for us to focus on solutions and brainstorm possibilities. And then finally, W, what's the way forward? Establishing the commitment. And that brings me back to what we talked about at the start. We are looking for two things, and one of them is affirmation, and the second is accountability. When we coach and work with other people, the way forward in the GROW model is critical because it allows us to hold each other and ourselves accountable because now we made a commitment, and it becomes a question of integrity if we choose not to do it. So let's get to one of my all-time favorite strategies, processes, and tools, and that's the integration of Clifton Strengths. I mean, this is my favorite way to do it. Because if you can use Clifton Strengths with other people, all you are doing is looking through the lens of positivity to ensure that the other person is leaning into their strengths and finally, and most importantly, recognizing that their weaknesses or blind spots might be triggering them to be in whatever state they are in, so then they need to lean into others or stack their strengths to ensure that they are successful. So when coaching for effort and energy, help people align their how with their what. Clifton Strengths calls it name it, claim it, aim it. Name it by understanding the definition of the strength. What is your strength in this situation? Claim it, look back at past successes, and how did this strength help? And then finally, aim it. Apply the strength specifically to a current challenge and use it and make sure to find it. Now, one of the things that happens to too many people is they're operating in their day-to-days. They get stuck in a loop. They start to rent their mental real estate to other people, and they realize that they are not acting in the best interest of themselves or using their talents. But they only realize that if somebody taps them on the shoulder, shakes their shoulders, or maybe knocks them upside the head and says, hey, what are you doing? Lean into your strengths here. Because strengths-based feedback is powerful. And what we want to do when we are coaching other people is not focus on their weaknesses or try to fix a weakness, which is what IPEC would call focusing on the catabolic energy. We want to help others by using their dominant strengths and bypassing their weaknesses and or bridging those weaknesses by teaming them with other people who can collaboratively design or do whatever it is they're struggling with. Whew. That was a lot. Okay, a few other ideas for you when trying to support yourself or jolt others into a mindset. This is called calibrate effort and performance, and the goal is to move the other person from hard work, which is unsustainable, to optimal effort, which is called flow state, and then to remind people of the law of diminishing returns. Help people identify where their 80% effort yields 100% of the necessary results, because too often we sit there in that 20% or that 5%, or we give 1% of the people 100% of our energy. And we do that by coaching them to something called the stop doing list. Really high achieving people and, highly focused people struggle when we ask them to remove things from their lists, like stop doing things. And each month or each week or whenever we're coaching others, we should ask them to identify one task to delegate, one to automate, and one to delete. Now, some people will say, well, I have no one to delegate to. Yes, you do. You can delegate to other days, other times, other places. You can go back into your management system or your hierarchy and say, I don't have the capacity to do this. How can you help? As someone, me, who's been in leadership for a really long time, I have never pushed back on somebody who has asked for help and said, well, this is your job. No, if somebody has the vulnerability and the courage and authenticity to come ask for help, give it to them. So, coach, calibrate, law of diminishing returns, and then stop doing. Again, delegate, automate, or delete. Last thing, and I want you to look this up because this is very helpful when you are navigating others and really yourself. When you're coaching, it's easy to get lost in big emotions like anger or sadness that the other person is experiencing or you are experiencing. But Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions gives us a much more surgical way to understand the human heart. Think of it as a color wheel for your feelings. There are 8 primary colors. Joy, trust, and fear are a couple of them that sit at the center. As you move outwards on this thing, what's wrong with me? Anyways, these emotions become less intense because what happens is you learn that like how rage softens into annoyance over time, but the real magic happens in the overlaps. Just like mixing blue and yellow creates green. Mixing joy and trust creates love. And by using this wheel, we just stop feeling and start identifying what we are experiencing. And that allows us to see that our complex moods are actually logical combinations of basic instincts and experiences that are all designed to help us survive and connect. Seriously, look this up. If you've never heard of the Wheel of Emotions, pause, Google, pull it up, drop it into AI, and say, how can I best use this process to coach myself or others? Because it will help you a ton, especially when you start to look at the different emotions and how they can weave together and create greater things. And I just want to emphasize this one last time. This allows you to start identifying what you are feeling so that you can understand the complex moods that we all live with and we are instinctively designed to have. Okay. So what do great coaches do? I just gave you 4 different ways to approach coaching, 4 different ways to learn and grow. But great coaches, with the people that they are coaching, they have a common language. They use Clifton Strengths, for instance, and they say things like, I see you're stacking your competitiveness with your woo, and you're trying to overwhelm people, which is your strength. So maybe turn that down a little bit. The other thing is that they have common experiences. Coaches and players, i.e. you, if you're being coached by another person, or if you're an administrator, a manager, and you're coaching other people, you have something that you have both experienced together. This little metaphor is very, very important for anyone who wants to coach others. You should never coach a sport you've never played. And what that means is you should never coach other people if you have never been coached. You've got to go through the experience, the understanding of the emotions and the feelings, the difficulty in being vulnerable, how hard it is to take the risk to tell the truth. It's kind of like all the research of people who go to their primary care physician and don't share everything that's actually wrong with them for the hope that the doctor will tell them they're fine, and then only to disclose, oh yeah, by the way, I also have this symptom as well. Okay, we need to do that. Now the next one is something I call active empathy. Active empathy is intentionally looking to understand what's happening right in front of you all of the time, constantly looking at everyone and every situation through the lens of what would that be like. Here's how I practice it. I love to people watch. And I love looking out in audiences, or I love when I'm waiting for the train or at the airport or even just pumping gas at the gas station. I like just looking around and wondering, I wonder what they're going through. I wonder what that would be like. And what it does is it helps me find ways to immediately figure out how to serve other people. For instance, so many people sit on an airplane, and I get to travel a lot. And I watch people struggle all the time with 2 things when they get on the airplane. Number 1, finding their seat. And number 2, putting their luggage in the overhead container. And I always sit astonished as people do not get up to help. Like, well, that's your problem. And I am always getting up to help because I wonder, what would that be like? What would it be like to be, in your late 70s and trying to get your luggage above your head when it weighs 40 pounds? And here I am sitting here. Well, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to look, I'm going to see, and I'm going to act. That's active empathy. Now, the next one is one that we all know, and it's my favorite, of course, which is optimism, and asking yourself, what's the best thing that could happen instead of the worst thing that can happen? And always use tools to remove emotion and get yourself to action. The best part of coaching others is the relationship and the recognition by both parties that we have one thing in mind for each other: success. No one instinctively runs into the storm. We all learn how to do it, and then we do it. We talk ourselves in and out of stuff all of the time, and we can talk ourselves into an awful lot if we surround ourselves with the right people who understand that there are a few key things that great coaches all do, and that is this. They listen, they guide with ideas and options, they affirm, and then they hold you accountable, just like Al did with me. So let's do some smart thinking. Describe what you need to do differently today in order to better coach yourself. list the strategies you could apply to support others, and describe how you can grow others through these tips and tools, as well as a bonus fourth question this week. What are you going to read about, learn about, and do tomorrow? That's it. That's the Smart Thinking Podcast. Hey, as always, thank you so much for listening, and I really appreciate the fact that you, on occasion, give me all kinds of feedback. Never be afraid to send me a question at ted@cesa6.org. If there's anything that I ever talk about that you're looking for more information on, never be afraid to contact me, and as always, please rate and share this episode with others. Helping me help you help others is the ultimate for me personally. Whew, that almost sounded poetic. Finally, thank you to the Well Pennies and Golden Bear Studios in Des Moines, Iowa, for always letting me use the music in their catalog to help you end each episode with a little bit of playful fun. All right, as we close out this episode, I'd like you to think about the great mentoring and coaching opportunities you've had over the course of your life. The greatest leaders are really just intensely curious about the world around them and always looking to acquire new tactics and strategies. They also have a keen ability to look for the strengths of others while never making anyone dependent upon them, the coach. The best feeling in the world is seeing the success of someone else and then standing on the sidelines watching them celebrate what they found on their own. There's a great humility that needs to be found within each of us. None of us should be looking for the credit, leading with, well, I told you so. Those types of responses they debilitate people. They rapidly diffuse trust. And most importantly, no one's ever going to come back to you for advice. But great coaches, they never, ever engage the following statement. If someone ever says to you, well, just tell me what to do, a great coach would never, ever, ever engage that. When we coach others or ourselves, we need to admire the solutions and never the problem. We cannot give someone a formula for success. They have to make their own choices. But we can fill that bucket with tactics and strategies of the other person's making, as well as a little bit of our own. Because we need to support others by building our own repertoires. And we need to focus on the strengths that people have and not try to get people to fix themselves by focusing on their weaknesses. Coaches that are positive and quick with affirmation and quicker with accountability, they do 4 things. Number 1, they build trust quickly by demonstrating results and integrity. Number 2, they elevate others. They make them feel that they have the skills needed to do what they need to do because they give them all the tools, processes, strategies, research, and frankly, the formulas for them to choose into finding that success. The third thing they do is they support people wherever they stand. They never talk about what could be or what was. They are where they are, right in front of them. And the fourth thing I want you to do is be someone's Al. Al's amazing. I miss Al. And what I missed most about Al was just the simple conversations. Ted, what's the most important thing we should be discussing? And in and out of that office. No baloney. Well, you can be somebody's Al. That can be you. Wait, that is you. So let's build ourselves up this week so that we can chase down the storms for ourselves and everyone else that we are around so that we can always do one thing together. Find that motivation, act on that motivation, and be the motivation for others.
I can't be found, and I feel the weight of it all over town. And I'm so far away, but I get a little closer every day. You're my star, you're my shaker, you're my ground, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for a song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burning up with me tonight. Wide awake here with you, 'cause nobody loves me like you do. And I feel so small when they never even notice me at all. Life, it knocks me down, but it doesn't seem as hard this time around. 'Cause you're my star, you're my shaker, you're my ground, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for a song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burn it up with me tonight. Wide awake here with you, 'cause nobody loves me like you do. Like a kid, though I paid my dues more than they ever did. And I'll try even more, till there's something here that wasn't here before. You're my star, you're my shaker, you're my ground, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for the song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burn it up with me tonight. Wide awake here with you, 'cause nobody loves me like you. Nobody loves me like you. Nobody loves me like you do.